Alright. I think we're back. I think we're live. Yeah. Looks like we're live again. I have to wait for people to rejoin. It, of course, made a whole new stream, as I figured it would. So apologies for that. At least we got the video back. Yes, we are live, and let me get things back to the way they were. I have a theory about what happened. It would be nice, though, if my video capture card would tell me that it actually does have a signal, but it can't negotiate the signal. I think that's what it was. I had changed the frame rate on the camera to accommodate a longer exposure. I just assumed the capture card would be able to handle that, but I don't think it could. I think it is looking for a 60 frame per second stream. If it doesn't see that, it freaks out. That's my theory. I went down to 5 frames a second, and it really didn't like that, I think. Oh, is the video quality gone bad? I probably need to adjust the focus on the telescope. Bitrate should be okay. Yeah, so I think it was an issue with frame rate on the camera. That's better. Alright, let me do pass-through again. Oh. Oh, okay, there it goes. Yeah, sorry. Scares me now when I see it hiccup like that, but that was just because I was setting up the pass-through, I think. So yeah, Uranus. I can try it again. I think I understand the problem, and if I understand the problem, I think I can recreate it and fix it without having to reboot everything. I don't know. I'm a little scared to try at this point. I'm a little scared to try. We did have Uranus, or at least I had it on my end, but you guys probably couldn't see it at all because of the issue. I can try to go back to Uranus. Yeah, we can try that. So, yeah, there's Uranus, I believe. I think that's it. A little hard to say. And there's not much to see, is it? Jupiter is already set for me. Yeah, there's not much to see there. And I dare not adjust the frame rate to allow for longer exposures because it may not work at all on the live stream, which is a shame. But, yeah, that's what we have to live with. So, yeah, Uranus is there. It's visible. It's nice. But we'll move back to the moon. There's not much to see with Uranus, but we've now seen it. And a $4.99 super chat from Jay Blakemore, sorry. A tip for you for smacking down all the Planet X weirdos. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed my video there on Paul Begley's attempt to revive a very old hoax. Yeah. Also use the EQ wedge to get rid of that field rotation. Yeah, you can see how tilted the moon looks here. And actually, I should transform the view to be true orientation. The telescope is, of course, flipping things. It actually looks like this in the sky. Could do a mosaic of the moon with this. Yeah. Yeah, you definitely could. Maybe, gosh, that would be pretty cool. Maybe at the end I'll record a 4K video, because this is also only being streamed in 1080p. The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K is very nice, but if there's one feature I would change, it's the fact that the HDMI output can only handle 1080p out. It does not actually put 4K out in real time. That would be a very nice thing if it could. And in any case, I can record 4K offline and then do some stitching, and that would look pretty incredible, I bet. Hello again. Yes, sorry for the interruption. We probably lost about half the audience from that, so that's okay. That's what these first shakedown videos are for, is work out the bugs, right? Well, that was really more of a bug with the video capture card than it was the telescope. The telescope was working just fine. It was just the weirdness of the capture card. But now I know its limitations. It does not like the frame rate being changed. I'm gonna, after I end the stream, I'm gonna test that theory again and just deliberately try to recreate the problem and make sure that's really what it was. I'm pretty sure it was, because when I set it back to frame rate of 60 frames a second, the video came back as if nothing was wrong, and I think that's what it was. Again, it would be nice if the capture card would actually tell me that it would tell me that the source video is an incompatible frame rate resolution, etc. something. But no, it doesn't tell you anything. Oh. Oh. What's a good telescope for a beginner? Well, depends on what you want to do with it. But I think for a beginner, I'm an old school guy, and I'm going to recommend first you should learn how to star hop, and you should learn how to read read a star atlas and sky charts, that kind of thing. So get a good pair of binoculars would be my first step, and learn how to star hop to the Andromeda Galaxy. That's a good first step. If you can do that, then you can get a feel for how to use a telescope without auto tracking, without go-to and all of that. Back when I started out, that was one of my first real challenges, was trying to reliably find the Andromeda Galaxy with the telescope. With binoculars, it was easy enough, but with the telescope, there's a level of difficulty there of trying to maneuver a telescope manually on an EQ mount, for example, and learning how right ascension and declination are arranged in the sky and how you navigate that. So to try to simplify that, to try to reduce the complexity and make it easier, a Dobsonian is a good way to go, because you don't have to worry about right ascension and declination and sort of this initially counterintuitive or unintuitive coordinate system. You can just point the telescope up, down, left, right, like you would look with your head, and it's a lot easier to just move from object to object. So your money will also go further that way. You'll be able to buy a bigger scope for the same amount of cash. So a 6 to 8 inch Dobsonian is a great way to go if you can afford it. In terms of an entry-level option that has tracking and go-to and all of that, I really do like my 4-inch NexStar. The NexStar 4 SE is a great scope. However, there's a big catch there. Right now, it's tough to get, especially for a reasonable price. I was able to pick mine up a couple years ago for about $400. These days, you can easily find them for $800 on eBay, if you can find them at all. And that's just ridiculous. To me, that's way overpriced compared to at least what it was a few years ago. Now, will those prices ever go back down? I don't know. It feels like the chip shortage and all of this is going to stay with us for some time yet. And that's a real problem. So getting a new scope for a reasonable price, kind of hard to do right now, at least in my experience. A lot of stuff is sold out, and they're slow to resupply. But if you can get it on sale, the NexStar 4 is an excellent scope. Otherwise, like I say, I would go for big aperture, something simple like a Dobsonian. That's where I would really recommend you go. But some people, they want to dive right in and have auto tracking and go to kind of do the work for them. Even with a NexStar, though, even with that, you still need to learn the names of major stars and where they are in the sky and learn how to identify them in constellations. The scope's going to rely on you to help it pick out a couple of bright stars to align on. It's not hard to do, but you do need to be willing to sort of learn that a little bit. I find it a very useful skill to have, really, is to be able to look up at the sky, and even without looking at a sky chart, that's, Orion there, that's Ursa Major there, that's Procyon and Capella and Pollux and Castor and all of that. Being able to identify those stars without even looking at a chart starts to become second nature, and that's a very useful skill to have. Oh, you got yours for $550 on Amazon? That's a really good price these days. Uh, I was just browsing, when I was shopping for this telescope, actually. I was browsing NexStars in general, and I was seeing some people selling NexStar 4s for like $800. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, that would have got a scope that was significantly larger just a couple of years ago. But now your money doesn't go as far for buying a telescope. I mean, I guess that's a variety of reasons, but one is definitely a shortage of supply. Probably from chip shortages, I'm guessing, is part of it. And that's another reason maybe to look at the Dobsonian market. I didn't really look at that because that's not my use case. My use case doesn't really allow for a Dobsonian for the most part. But if you can get a Dobsonian, you might be in a better shape because there's no chips, unless you're getting some sort of advanced Dobsonian that has like encoders in it for what they call push-to. So there's also this sort of hybrid scope called a push-to, which doesn't have motors, but it does have what they call encoders that allow it to detect where it's pointed in the sky based on how many clicks. Think of it like moving a gear, and you're clicking, and it's counting the number of times the teeth on that gear move. It's all optical usually, but it's the same principle, and it allows it to know where it's pointed in the sky once you align it, much like you would align a go-to telescope. You point it at a couple of known stars, it knows where it is in the sky, and you can then hook that up to your computer or your phone and see a display of where the telescope is currently pointed in the sky on a planetarium program, and you can literally push the crosshairs to the target you're looking for, and it should be there, in the eyepiece. So that's another option, but that's, again, you're dumping money on the electronics then, not on the optics. But unless you're getting a push-to telescope, your Dobsonian generally is going to not have any kind of electronics on it, so maybe the supply will be better, hopefully. I don't know if that's really true or not, but that would be my guess. I mean, fun little story. The gigantic telescope we had when I was in college here in Florida, it was this very large telescope that had a clock drive. It had tracking. It would move the right ascension axis to move with the sky, but it did not have go-to. It didn't have any kind of motorized go-to, but it did have encoders. So it was a gigantic push-to telescope, basically. But it also had, like I said, it had an equatorial mount with a clock drive system. So once you got it on target, you could engage the drive and it would track, in theory. In reality, there were some issues with the scope. I remember there were balance issues with it. We would hang the metal dust cover for the telescope on a rope around the counterweight axis. We would hang it around the counterweight to weigh it down a little bit more because the weights that were on there weren't quite enough for the weight that the telescope actually had, so we would hang that on the end of it to better improve the tracking by balancing the scope better. But anyway, that's not the case anymore. They've since replaced that scope with a more modern, proper scope and mount. But back in the day, that's what we had. And the computer, such that it even had a computer, I mean, basically all it did is it allowed you to set different tracking rates, so you could track, say, the speed the moon is moving, things like that. That computer had vacuum tubes in it. I mean, that's how old it was. And that fact, of course, made it a nightmare for servicing. They were looking at renovating it and completely replacing the computer on it. I think that was going to be somebody's like senior project in the engineering department. They failed, and they had to put it back together in the original configuration. But I remember there was like a whole different control box that they built for the thing, and it was supposed to be hooked up and work, and they never did get that to work. But they eventually sold that scope to another college in the state. Yeah, I'm really, man, that view with Copernicus crater and Mare Imbrium, and oh man, you can really see the shadows of some of those mountains on the moon casting onto the flat Maria. Looks great right there at the Terminator. So I'm noticing the color tint is kind of interesting. I think some people were thinking earlier I had a filter on there because of the color, but actually that's just white balance. And let me see if I can adjust that. I mean, it is set for solar, basically daytime sky, white balance, and that's the color we're getting out of it. So I can try to adjust that though. There we go. That might be a bit better. I did an automatic white balance adjustment, just using the moon itself as the reference, and that neutralized the color a bit. So let's try having some fun with a 2x Barlow lens. Now, when using this, I do expect we'll see some dust. That's not in the telescope though. That's the Barlow lens. So let's try it and see what we get. Yeah. No fret on the nose signal there. I turned the camera off deliberately while swapping the nose piece. Now I gotta refocus. think that's pretty good. So there's Copernicus crater up close. What camera optics? I'm using a 2x Barlow now, and this is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K. I also have a Feather Touch focuser on here. It came with a scope. It's a pretty nice little accessory because that allows me to adjust the focus without shifting the mirror. So I can make tweaks to the focus very precisely. I do not have a Batinov mask though. That's an accessory I need to get for the scope, is an 11-inch Batinov. Yeah, we can try to take a look at some of the Apollo sites. So, if I've got my bearings right, then we should be pointed at the landing site of Apollo 14 right now. In the Frau Mora region, which was where Apollo 13 should have landed and didn't, obviously. But Apollo 14 kind of ended up in that same area. So that's roughly where we're looking now, as far as I can tell. It's a little hard to get my bearings straight on all this, but I think that's in the general region here. Apollo 12 is still in darkness, according to Sky Safari Pro. Let's see. Apollo 11's down there. Yeah, we can try to go get Apollo 11 too. Let's see if we can hit that one. Okay, so now, right about the center is about where Apollo 11 landed. Not much to see here. High sun angle, so the contrast isn't great. But you're looking at the Sea of Tranquility, and that's the dark Maria you see on the right side. And Apollo 11 is about there. Let's see. Can I do this? Here's my old JWST marker. Of course, this is not JWST, but just going to use that to point out Apollo 11 was right about there. So there you go. Star Zone, a coma corrector, or hyperstar. A hyperstar would be cool, except that you have to, pull out the secondary mirror every time you want to use it. I'm not sure if I'll really aim for that anytime in the near future, because my main plans for the scope are high-magnification views of ISS and planets and the moon and things like that. Deep space, not as much, at least not right away. Oh, we're getting a little cloud cover coming in. Alright, yeah, the clouds are moving in. I'm having to raise ISO to try to compensate, but it's getting thicker and thicker. That's going to probably do it for tonight, unfortunately. I know the forecast was forecast to predicting a deterioration of weather over the course of the night. It's supposed to get cloudy, and it's doing it now. But I think this was a pretty good first test of the scope. The scope seems to be working great, so I'm looking forward to bringing you guys improved views of the planets, the moon, satellites, and rockets in the future with this scope. Once again, I want to thank all of you for supporting this channel. You guys made this possible, and I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you for watching. Thanks for all of your support. And until next time, clear skies, folks.